This is Risk SA TV. It's the end of the first day of the Momentum Risk Summit at Sun City. I'm joined by Brian Gibbon, Chief Underwriter for Swiss Re Health and Life. Brian, we've been talking today about the incredible role that technology is playing in the insurance sector. Swiss Re has done a lot of research looking at the way that this is changing consumer behaviour. Talk to me a little bit about the changes and what technological changes have driven this change in the last 15 years.
Thank you for the opportunity. The absolute key in all of this is data and access to data. So whether you're a big corporate, whether you're an independent broker, whether you're an agent, the absolute key is the data that you can access, and then how you manipulate that data to your own advantage. Whether it's a process that you want to change in the case of the insurer, provided you have the right amount of data, the right kind of data, you can adapt your processes accordingly. If you're a salesperson, you can certainly analyze the data of what worked for you in the past, how you think a consumer will behave. There's a hell of a lot of studies around consumer behavior, about people's propensity to buy or not to buy, whatever the case may be. And if you can marry all of that data together and all of that information together, you'll be in a very strong position when you go face-to-face discussion with your client. So I think the key in the future is going to be the insurer's ability to pre-package a needs-based, affordable product that an intermediary can take to a client. But the client will need to affect this product without any real intervention on his or her part. So I think something like the reduction in medicals, so the underwriting, the whole underwriting irritation process that there is, I think it will be removed to a large extent, and it will only be reserved, I think, for really complex medical cases where a client presents with a medical issue. So there's lots and lots of work, lots of consumer studies going on in this space, and I think the company or the agent that is or the broker that gets on top of all of this data will certainly be the winner. I think in a couple of years' time, if we still have to send a nurse to go and collect blood and medical information from a client, we really haven't progressed very far at all. We're in a good spot now. We can access lots of data. Wearable devices are becoming big news. So things like jawbones, there's going to be sensors built into clothing which is going to look after or going to tell you about your perspiration rate, your heart rate, and all of those good things. And all of that data gets stored somewhere. Now the key is going to be how do you access that data and then manipulate it to your advantage.
So speaking of the data, what is the Swiss Re research telling us about changing behaviour, expectations and requirements coming from consumers?
Once again, there's depending on which territory you're in, there's different territorial peculiarities to this. So, for example, if you're doing this kind of research in the Indian subcontinent, you need to localize it, if I can use that expression. What holds true in India will not necessarily hold true in South Africa. Some of it may, but some of it certainly may not. We've done some tests with clients in various parts of the world where we do exactly the same change to an application form in the way we structure questions, and we find completely the opposite results coming out from these tests that we do. And they're genuine live tests. It's not a theoretical exercise. It's actually answers that we get from consumers who are purchasing a product. So local, it needs to be tweaked locally, if I can use that term. But again, there are some commonalities. So definitely there's things that drive what we as consumers do, and whether you buy insurance or buy electricity. You kind of think, well, what's in it for me? What will my friends and family say? All of those kind of basic questions go through your mind before you make this purchasing decision. I guess it boils down to, at the end of the day, is how honest do we think we should be when we are interacting with our insurer. So one of the big issues in underwriting, obviously, is non-disclosure, the thing that makes a claim not pay out. We've done quite a bit of work in the honesty space to restructure questions, to reframe applications. So one of the things that we've done, and we've done it in Australia, is we've moved the declaration where you declare that what you've written is true and correct. We've moved that to the beginning of the application form instead of hiding it away in the declaration at the end. And just a small change like that has had a real marked improvement in the level of disclosure on those application forms. So it's that kind of approach that needs to be taken before we can make some real concrete assumptions from it. But certainly there's enough evidence at this point in time to say that if your questions are structured appropriately, if they're directed at the right audience, the honesty factor certainly does improve markedly.
So in the African context, in South Africa particularly, what are some of the steps now that insurers and advisors can be taking to ensure that they are reaping the benefits of these changes and staying on top of the change?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important that an advisor and a company be aware of what there is actually out there. So a thing like the attendance at the Momentum Risk Summit, something like that would be a good place to find this information. There is loads and loads of research, free publications that you can do if you just Google it. Good old-fashioned, just Google it. You'll find tons of information about these various databases that you can access, and the majority of your information, if you go and Google your information, is from databases that anybody can access. So if you go and Google your own name, you might be a little surprised at what you find, and thinking that that was put in some protected database. Chances are very good that it's not in a protected database, and the information will be there. So I think they need to be up to speed with what's going on, what the developments are, what's the latest sort of in the trends, and I guess you need to stay on top of these things. Mobile devices is going to be. Mobile devices will rule, for sure. Mobile devices are going to rule. And if a person isn't in that space yet, I suggest they get into that space in a hurry, or else they're going to get left behind.
I think your turn of phrase in saying good old-fashioned Google speaks to the rate of change very, very well. Thank you very much for your time, Brian.
You're welcome.